Hello everyone, welcome to 90-Day News Hub. Watch the full video for the latest shocking updates. 90-Day Fiancé's Michael Elasamy reveals ruthless message for Angela D amid legal battle after leaving her filthy home. 90-Day Fiancé happily ever after star Michael Elasamy has finally found his voice, and he's no longer holding back as the ongoing legal battle between Michael and Angela D continues behind the scenes. Michael is making it clear that he is done being silent, done being controlled, and done living in fear. This time, instead of loud arguments or explosive interviews, Michael chose something far more powerful. A subtle yet ruthless message that speaks volumes about where he stands emotionally and mentally after leaving Angela's home and toxic grip for good. For years, fans of the 90-Day Fiancé franchise watched Michael endure what many believe was relentless emotional abuse, public humiliation, and strict control at the hands of Angela D. Their relationship was often chaotic, uncomfortable, and disturbing to watch. Angela's explosive temper, harsh language, and domineering behavior frequently overshadowed Michael's calm and patient demeanor. Yet, despite everything, Michael stayed until he didn't. Now, as Michael celebrates his second Christmas in America, his life looks dramatically different from the dark days he spent trapped in Angela's small-town home. Michael, originally from Nigeria, officially arrived in the United States in December 2023, fulfilling a dream that took years of paperwork, long-distance heartbreak, and relentless scrutiny. However, what was supposed to be a new beginning quickly turned into what Michael later described as a nightmare. Instead of finding peace, stability, and partnership, Michael found himself living in an environment he would eventually accuse Angela of making hostile, controlling, and unsafe. The time, Michael lived with Angela in Hazelhurst, Georgia, a small rural town far removed from the freedom and independence he had imagined. The home was crowded and chaotic, shared not only with Angela, but also with her daughters, Scotty and Skylum, along with their 6 children. The lack of privacy, constant tension, and Angela's unpredictable behavior reportedly made daily life unbearable for Michael. Michael later accused Angela of cruel treatment, claiming that she constantly monitored his movements, restricted his communication, and verbally attacked him both privately and publicly. Viewers had already witnessed Angela screaming at Michael on camera, destroying his belongings, and repeatedly threatening him with deportation. But behind closed doors, Michael suggests the situation was even worse. Eventually, Michael did something that shocked everyone. He left. When news broke that Michael had gone missing from Angela's home, speculation exploded across social media. Angela immediately took control of the narrative, accusing Michael of scamming her, using her for a green card, and disappearing without explanation. But as time passed, Michael slowly began revealing his side of the history, and fans listened. By December 2024, Michael was no longer hiding. Instead, he was thriving. Michael currently appears to be living independently in Houston, Texas, far away from Hazelhurst, and even farther from Angela's control. His new apartment is described by fans as cozy, modern, and peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaotic environment he left behind. For the first time, Michael seems to be living life on his own terms. This Christmas, Michael is not surrounded by screaming matches or tension-filled silence. Instead, he is celebrating the holiday with friends he now considers his chosen family. These friends, many of whom stood by him when Angela publicly attacked his character, have become his support system in America. Michael has openly expressed gratitude for these people, stating that they helped him rebuild his confidence, independence, and sense of self after escaping what many fans call a deeply toxic relationship. As he looks ahead to 2025, Michael isn't just thinking about survival anymore. He's thinking about growth, happiness, and peace. Recently, Michael shared a reel on his Instagram stories that instantly caught fans' attention. At first glance, the post seemed harmless, even humorous. But for those who know Michael's journey and his history with Angela, the message was unmistakable. The reel, originally posted by Women Inspire Change, features a classic scene from Seinfeld. In the clip, Elaine B., played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is seen making a toast during Peterman Company party in the 1996 episode titled The Little Kicks. With a glass raised and a confident smile, Elaine declares, "Here's to those who wish us well, and those who don't can go to hell." She then bursts into laughter, completely unbothered. For Michael, this quote wasn't just funny, it was personal. By reposting the clip, Michael delivered what fans immediately recognized as a ruthless, indirect message aimed squarely at Angela D. Without mentioning her name, without starting another public argument, Michael made it clear he no longer cares about her opinions, threats, or attempts to control his narrative. The message resonated deeply with fans, many of whom have supported Michael throughout 2024. In fact, Michael has made it clear that his biggest gratitude this year is toward his supporters, people who defended him when Angela accused him of being a scammer, a cheater, and a manipulator. For years, Michael forced Michael to stay away from social media. She claimed it was because she didn't trust him and feared he would cheat. However, many fans now believe there was another motive behind that demand. Angela didn't want Michael to see the overwhelming number of comments calling out her abusive behavior. Once Michael regained control of his online presence, he finally saw the truth. People believed him. Fans rallied behind Michael, even organizing GoFundMe donations to help. You thought the Michael and Angela story was finally over. Think again, because the quietest move Michael has made so far might be the loudest message of the entire breakup. No screaming match. No chaotic live stream. No explosive interview with 1,000 accusations. Instead, Michael drops a subtle ice-cold line that fans are calling ruthless, and it lands right in the middle of a behind-the-scenes legal war that TLC hasn't fully unpacked on screen. And here's the twist. This isn't just about a breakup anymore. This is about power, control, immigration rumors, reputations, and two people fighting to control the story of what really happened inside that Georgia home. So today we're breaking down the new updates step by step. What's being reported, what's alleged, what's confirmed, and why Michael's new tone has Angela and the fanbase completely shaken. And stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Michael's soft message is being read like a declaration of war, and why the legal chess moves happening right now may decide not only who wins the relationship narrative, but who walks away with their future intact. Let's set the stage. Michael Ilasanmi, known across the 90-Day Fiancé universe as the calm, patient, long-suffering husband, spent years in a long-distance marriage with Angela Deem. A marriage that many viewers described as uncomfortable to watch, chaotic, and emotionally brutal. Over and over, fans watched Angela explode, threaten, insult, and control the situation, while Michael stayed quiet, tried to keep the peace, tried to keep the dream alive, and tried to make it to the United States. That dream finally became real when Michael's visa process reached the finish line, and multiple outlets have reported that his visa was approved and he arrived in the U.S. in December 2023, around Christmas, after years of waiting and paperwork. But here's the part that matters. The new beginning didn't look like freedom. According to reports and ongoing claims connected to their dispute, Michael's life in America quickly turned into something he later framed as controlling, hostile, and unsafe. And if you've been following this story, you already know the moment everything cracked wide open. Michael left Angela's home and suddenly the public narrative exploded. Angela went hard and fast with her version, accusing Michael of scamming her, using her for a green card, and disappearing. Meanwhile, Michael stayed mostly quiet, until he didn't. Now, I want to be careful here. A lot of content online mixes confirmed details with heavy opinion. Some sources are more reliable than others. So throughout this script, I'm going to separate what's being reported by entertainment outlets from what's alleged by either side. Because when legal battles are involved, the loudest person isn't always the most accurate person. Now let's talk about the living situation, because this is where the story gets darker. Reports describe Michael living with Angela in Hazelhurst, Georgia, and the home environment being crowded, chaotic, and tense, with other family members present and limited privacy. That matters because if you're someone who's new to a country, new to a marriage under the same roof, and dependent on your spouse for stability, your entire sense of safety can rise or fall based on the home environment. And according to the narrative that has been forming around Michael, he felt trapped in a place where his movements were monitored, his communication was restricted, and his independence was treated like a threat. This idea isn't coming from nowhere, because over the years, viewers saw arguments on camera that included shouting, threats, and humiliating moments. But Michael's supporters say what happened off camera was worse, and that's why his decision to leave became the turning point. Here's where the legal angle enters the chat. Multiple reports reference an ongoing court dispute between Angela and Michael. In that dispute, claims and counters exist. Angela has pushed accusations about Michael's motives, while Michael's side has responded with allegations about treatment and control. Some entertainment coverage has specifically mentioned filings involving annulment/divorce claims, and Michael's response alleging cruel treatment. And when legal filings get involved, the strategy changes. You can't just yell your version of events on live video and expect the court to treat it like proof. You have to document. You have to frame. You have to stay consistent. And that's why Michael's ruthless message matters so much, because it signals he's shifting from survival mode into control mode. Let's go to the update that sparked this whole new wave of discussion. In December 2024, Screen Rant published coverage saying Michael had shared a ruthless message aimed at Angela amid their legal battle after leaving her home. And the reason fans are obsessed with it is because Michael didn't do what people expected. People expected Michael to either completely disappear or go on a full public drag campaign. Instead, he went subtle, almost like someone who finally realized silence can be louder than screaming. The message is being interpreted as Michael saying, "I'm not afraid anymore." And the subtext fans are reading is, "You don't control me. You don't own my voice. You don't get to rewrite my truth." Now, why is that ruthless if it's subtle? Because Angela's brand, on and off the show, has always depended on volume and dominance. Angela's energy is intimidation. Angela's style is confrontation. Angela's power move is making the other person react so she can point and say, "See? Look what you made me do." But when the other person stops reacting, that's when the power dynamic flips. A calm statement can become a weapon because it refuses to play the old game. And that's exactly what fans believe Michael is doing now. So what does Michael's life look like now, according to the narrative being reported? One major milestone that keeps being highlighted is that by late 2024 he's marking another Christmas season in the United States, and outlets have framed it as Michael celebrating life away from Angela's home. The bigger point is psychological. This is the first time Michael is publicly presenting himself not as Angela's husband under pressure, but as an individual with a voice, a boundary, and an exit plan he's standing on. And that's why his supporters are celebrating. They see it as, Michael finally made it to America, but the real victory wasn't the visa. It was the escape from what they believe was an emotionally abusive environment. Meanwhile, Angela's supporters see it as, Michael played the long game, got what he wanted, and dipped. And this is where the story becomes a war between two narratives. Narrative A. Michael is a victim who survived. Narrative B. Michael is a scammer who plotted. The court battle is basically the arena where those narratives try to become official. And when you're in that kind of narrative war, every post matters. Every quote matters. Every little message becomes evidence, not necessarily in court, but in the court of public opinion. Now let's talk about the missing moment, because that incident changed how the public saw this situation. When news spread that Michael was gone from Angela's home, social media lit up. Angela immediately pushed the storyline that he disappeared and couldn't be trusted. But later coverage and ongoing discussion suggests Michael's absence was connected to leaving the relationship, and at least one Screen Rant piece in early 2025 focused on Michael explaining why he went missing from Angela's house. That matters because once Michael starts explaining his reasons, whether you agree with him or not, it changes the dynamic from mystery disappearance to intentional escape. And if Michael can convincingly frame it as escape, public sympathy tilts toward him. Now, let's zoom in on what fans keep pointing out. The pattern. For years, fans watched the same cycle. Angela erupts. Michael tries to calm it down. Angela threatens consequences. Michael apologizes. Angela escalates. Michael absorbs it. And then repeat. That cycle is why viewers have such intense reactions now. Because to many people, Michael leaving isn't random. It's the inevitable conclusion of a relationship that looked like domination disguised as love. But the legal battle complicates everything. Because when legal battles happen, both sides often make serious claims, and those claims can get ugly. In April 2025, the Ashleys Reality Roundup reported on court-related allegations and claims connected to their divorce war, including Angela's claims in court docs and broader assertions that introduce a whole new layer of controversy around what was real, what was exaggerated for TV, and what each side is accusing the other of behind the scenes. Not presenting allegations as facts. I'm telling you what's being reported in relation to filings and disputes, because that's what shapes the narrative and what fans are reacting to. The important point is this. Once filings and claims go public, the story stops being a relationship update and becomes a reputational lawsuit in the public eye. And in reputational wars, both sides can look messy, even if one side is more sympathetic. So where does TLC fit into this? Here's the reality. The franchise often holds back details, saves certain reveals, or keeps major updates off screen until it becomes part of a storyline. That's why fans keep saying, TLC hasn't revealed it yet, whenever a major life update happens outside the show. But in a legal battle, TLC might not be able to reveal everything, and both sides might not want certain details aired while court action is active. So the silence from the network doesn't automatically mean a secret marriage or hidden plot. Sometimes it's just legal risk management. That said, fans don't want silence. Fans want answers. And because fans aren't getting a neat, official tell-all closure that explains everything, the internet fills the gap with theories. That's how rumors become trends. That's how a vague post becomes proof. That's how Michael posted something cold, turns into Michael is exposing Angela. And that's exactly why this subtle message is such a big deal. It gives people something to hold on to. It gives them a storyline moment in the middle of a real-life court situation. So let's break down why Michael's message hits like a punch. 1. It signals independence. 2. It suggests confidence. 3. It implies he no longer fears Angela's retaliation, whether that retaliation is public dragging, private threats, or immigration-related fear. Fans have long said Angela used deportation threats as a power tool, and that idea has circulated widely in commentary around their relationship. Now, if Michael is posting with a fearless tone, it tells viewers, that weapon doesn't work anymore. And that terrifies someone who depends on fear to maintain control. But what about Angela? Angela is not known for staying quiet when she feels disrespected. So if Michael is stepping forward with a calm, sharp edge, the audience expects Angela to respond with a storm. And that's why the next phase of this story is so unpredictable. Will Angela escalate publicly, or will she keep her moves inside the court system? Because those are two different strategies. Public escalation is about winning fans. Legal escalation is about winning outcomes. And right now, both might be happening at the same time. Now, let's talk about the filthy home framing that keeps appearing in headlines and gossip write-ups, because language like that is designed to trigger emotion and boost clicks. Screen Rant's headline itself uses strong wording, but even when headlines exaggerate, the underlying point remains. Michael is framing his departure as leaving a toxic environment, not leaving a loving spouse. And that difference is everything. If you leave a loving spouse, you're the villain. If you leave a toxic environment, you're the survivor. That's why this is a narrative war. That's why each side is fighting so hard to define the meaning of his departure. And that's why Michael's new voice matters. Because for years, Michael didn't have narrative control. Angela spoke for him, over him, and at him. Now Michael is choosing his own words. And when someone who has been quiet for years finally speaks, people listen, even if the message is short. Especially if the message is short. Because short messages invite interpretation. They invite projection. They invite the audience to become detectives. And on the internet, detective energy equals virality. So what happens next? Based on how these stories usually evolve, here are the 3 likely directions. Direction 1. More public statements. Either Michael speaks more, or Angela responds more aggressively, and the internet becomes a battlefield of screenshots, sources, and reaction videos. Direction 2. Legal developments leak. Filings, motions, or claims get summarized by entertainment outlets, and each update shifts public perception. Direction 3. TLC re-enters the chat. A tell-all mention. A cast update. A special episode. Anything that pulls this story back into the franchise machine. Now, I'm going to add one more layer that people ignore: audience fatigue. Fans are emotionally invested, but they're also tired of cycles that never resolve. That's why a ruthless message feels satisfying. It feels like a conclusion, even when it's not. It feels like Michael finally closed the door. But the truth is, legal battles keep doors open. They keep people connected through paperwork, accusations, court timelines, and money questions. Even when love is dead, conflict keeps the relationship alive in a different form. So the real question is Michael truly free yet? Or is this just phase 1 of a long fight? And if you're Michael, what's the smartest move? Stay calm. Stay consistent. Let the filings speak. Let Angela burn herself out with public chaos. That is exactly why subtlety is powerful. But if you're Angela, what's the move? Attack credibility. Question motives. Paint yourself as the victim. Frame Michael as a con artist. Because if Angela can convince enough people that Michael planned everything, she can soften the public backlash and strengthen her position in the narrative war. That's the chessboard. Now let me speak directly to the viewers the way YouTube audiences love it. If you watched Michael on the show and thought, this man has no backbone, this update is your wake-up call. Because whether you believe his story or not, Michael is presenting himself differently now. And that shift is what makes Angela look stunned, because she's used to controlling the room. But you can't control someone who isn't standing in your room anymore. You can't intimidate someone who no longer fears losing what you threatened to take. And if Michael truly feels secure in America now, the threat that once kept him quiet may have lost its power. So here's the big cliffhanger. For now, let's rewind the timeline, because the Michael and Angela story didn't collapse overnight. It was a slow burn that exploded after Michael finally stepped into the United States and realized that the dream he chased for years might turn into something very different from what he imagined. For years, Michael lived in Nigeria, dealing with visa delays, long-distance fights, and intense scrutiny from fans and critics who questioned whether his relationship with Angela was real love or just a ticket to America. But from Michael's perspective, this was a journey that required patience, sacrifice, and emotional endurance. He stayed loyal on camera, defended Angela against criticism, and constantly tried to prove that he wasn't using her. That loyalty became part of his identity in the 90-Day Fiancé universe. Viewers saw him as the calm counterbalance to Angela's explosive personality. But that dynamic also created a dangerous power imbalance. Angela was louder, more dominant, more confrontational, and more comfortable using fear and humiliation as tools during arguments. Michael was quieter, more passive, and often portrayed as someone who had to walk on eggshells just to keep the peace. When Michael finally arrived in the U.S. in December 2023, it should have been the climax of a love story. Instead, it became the beginning of a new conflict arc. According to reports and ongoing claims, Michael expected independence, partnership, and stability. But what he encountered was a crowded household, constant tension, and a level of control that he later suggested felt suffocating. Imagine arriving in a new country with limited social connections, no independent income initially, and full dependence on your spouse for housing, legal stability, and daily life. That kind of situation can make any argument feel terrifying, because walking away feels impossible. That's why fans are now rewatching old episodes and saying, the warning signs were always there. The shouting, the threats, the public humiliation, the constant suspicion. And then came the turning point, Michael leaving Angela's home. When Angela publicly claimed Michael disappeared, the narrative was chaotic. Fans didn't know whether to believe he ran away, was kidnapped, or was just hiding. But over time, Michael's side of the story began to emerge. He framed his departure as an escape, not a disappearance. And that shift in framing changed everything. Suddenly, Michael wasn't the villain in some viewers' eyes. He was the survivor. Meanwhile, Angela doubled down on her accusations, painting Michael as a scammer who played the long game for a green card. This is where the legal battle becomes more than just a divorce. It becomes a battle over identity, reputation, and legacy. Both sides want to control how history remembers this relationship. Angela wants the narrative that she was used and betrayed. Michael wants the narrative that he was controlled and abused. And the truth, as usual, is likely complex, layered, and not as simple as either extreme. Now, let's talk about the ruthless message again, because understanding the timeline makes it even more powerful. Michael didn't drop that message in the middle of chaos. He dropped it after leaving, after stabilizing, after gaining confidence in the US, and after legal filings started shaping the dispute. That means this wasn't an emotional outburst. It was calculated. It was a repositioning of his public persona. He went from the quiet, submissive husband to the calm, strategic individual who is no longer afraid of retaliation. And that shift is exactly what scares someone who relied on fear to maintain control. Fans noticed the change in Michael's tone during late 2024. Instead of apologizing, he started speaking with clarity and subtle confidence. Instead of begging for approval, he started setting boundaries. And that's why people are calling his message ruthless, not because it was loud, but because it was final. It sounded like someone who closed a chapter and refused to look back. Now, let's address the rumors, because this is where the internet gets wild. As soon as Michael left Angela and started posting independently, rumors exploded about him dating again, marrying again, and living a secret new life. But here's the reality. Most of these rumors are based on speculation, blurry photos, or clickbait headlines. There is no confirmed evidence that Michael secretly remarried during this legal battle. But the internet doesn't wait for confirmation. The internet builds narratives on hints, emojis, and captions. That's why creators keep using dramatic titles like Michael secretly married again or TLC hiding the truth. These titles boost clicks, even when the truth is uncertain. But uncertainty is fuel in reality TV gossip. And Michael's silence on certain details only makes fans more suspicious. Meanwhile, Angela continues to be one of the most polarizing figures in the franchise. Some fans defend her fiercely, arguing that Michael manipulated her emotionally and financially. Others see her behavior as abusive and controlling. The fandom is divided into two camps, and every new update becomes ammunition in this online civil war. The legal battle itself is mostly happening behind closed doors, with filings, motions, and claims that are summarized by entertainment outlets rather than shown in full detail. That's why fans feel like there's a massive untold story. TLC, of course, benefits from mystery. Mystery keeps people watching. But legal restrictions and personal privacy also limit what can be revealed on screen. So fans fill the gaps with theories, and creators turn those theories into content. Now, here's the psychological angle that makes this story so addictive. For years, Angela was seen as the dominant figure. Michael was the quiet one. When the quiet one finally speaks, people feel like they're witnessing a character arc. It feels like a movie where the underdog finally stands up. And Michael's subtle message fits that narrative perfectly. It's the moment the quiet character stops being quiet. It's the moment the power dynamic flips. And that's why Angela's reaction, or lack of public reaction, is being watched so closely. Because silence from someone who is usually loud can mean many things: strategy, legal advice, exhaustion, or preparation for something bigger. So what's next in this saga? The legal process will continue, with filings and responses shaping the official story. Public statements from either side will continue to influence fan perception, and TLC may eventually incorporate parts of this drama into future seasons or specials, depending on contracts and timelines. But one thing is certain, the Michael and Angela story is no longer just about love. It's about control, identity, survival, and narrative power. Michael's ruthless message wasn't just a jab, it was a declaration that he's rewriting his story. And whether you believe him or not, the fact that he's finally speaking for himself is what makes this chapter so compelling. Now let's break down the red flags that fans are obsessing over, because when you look back at Michael and Angela's relationship, the signs were there long before he ever set foot in the United States. Viewers watched Angela scream, throw objects, insult Michael publicly, and threaten to end the relationship countless times. Yet Michael stayed. He apologized. He begged. He tried to keep the peace. And for many fans, that dynamic felt uncomfortable, even disturbing. But for Michael, leaving wasn't simple. His immigration process, financial dependence, and emotional investment made walking away feel like destroying everything he had worked for. That's why his eventual exit feels like a massive character shift. Fans are now rewatching old clips and pointing out moments where Angela used threats of deportation, humiliation, and control as leverage. Meanwhile, others are rewatching moments where Michael was caught lying or hiding things, fueling the theory that he was never fully honest either. This is why the green card scam accusation became so powerful. From Angela's perspective, she sacrificed money, time, and reputation to bring Michael to the US, only for him to leave soon after. To her supporters, that timing looks suspicious. To Michael's supporters, that timing looks like survival. Two timelines. Two narratives. Same events. Completely different interpretations. And that's what makes this story explode online. Now let's talk about the psychological shift. When Michael arrived in the US, he entered a completely new environment. New laws. New social support systems. New possibilities. For years, Angela held the power because Michael was stuck overseas. Once he arrived, that power dynamic slowly began to crack. Even if Michael had no intent screen anymore. He was physically present, legally recognized, and starting to understand his rights. That kind of realization can change how a person sees their relationship overnight. And according to the narrative Michael is now presenting, that realization made him see the environment as toxic and unsustainable. Now, let's address the legal accusations in a neutral way, because this is where things get serious. In legal disputes, both sides often make extreme claims. Angela's side has accused Michael of fraud, manipulation, and emotional betrayal. Michael's side has framed Angela as controlling, abusive, and hostile. These claims are serious, but they are also strategic. In court, perception matters. Each side wants the judge, the public, and the network to believe their version of reality. And that's why every social media post, every interview, and every headline becomes part of the larger battle. Michael's ruthless message wasn't just emotional, it was strategic positioning. He's shaping how people see him before the final legal outcomes are public. And that's smart. Now, fans are also talking about the living conditions in Angela's home. Reports describe the home as crowded, chaotic, and filled with family members and children, creating constant tension and lack of privacy. For someone newly arrived in a country, that environment can feel overwhelming. Combine that with public scrutiny, cameras, and constant arguments, and you have a recipe for mental burnout. Michael's supporters believe he reached that breaking point. Angela's supporters believe he used that chaos as an excuse. Again, two narratives fighting for dominance. Now here's the most interesting part, Michael's tone change. For years, Michael sounded submissive, apologetic, and scared of losing Angela. Suddenly, after leaving, his tone becomes calm, confident, and almost cold. That's why fans call his message ruthless. Not because he insulted Angela directly, but because he didn't need to. Silence, subtlety, and emotional detachment can be more brutal than insults. It sends the message, "You no longer matter enough to control my emotions." For someone who thrives on reaction, that is devastating. Angela's personality has always been built on confrontation. When the other person stops reacting, the entire dynamic collapses. And that's what fans think is happening now. Michael is no longer playing the same game. He's playing a different one. Now, let's talk about TLC's role in all of this. Reality TV thrives on drama, but legal battles complicate storytelling. Networks often avoid airing sensitive legal details while cases are ongoing. That's why fans feel like TLC is hiding information. In reality, it's often legal strategy and contract restrictions. But mystery benefits the franchise. The less they reveal, the more fans speculate. And speculation equals views. That's why creators, bloggers, and YouTubers are milking every tiny update. Now, why is this breakup considered one of the most debated in 90-Day Fiancé history? Because it touches on multiple sensitive topics: immigration power dynamics, emotional abuse allegations, financial dependency, reality TV manipulation, and public versus private personas. It's not just a breakup. It's a cultural conversation. People project their own experiences onto Michael and Angela. Some see toxic relationships. Some see manipulation. Some see survival. Some see betrayal. That's why every update trends. Now, here's the cliffhanger for. Now let's dive into the biggest rumors exploding across social media right now, because the moment Michael left Angela, the internet immediately started building a brand new storyline for his life. Secret girlfriend. Secret marriage. New sponsors. Hidden American lifestyle. And while some of these rumors are pure speculation, they've become a massive part of the 90-Day Fiancé conversation. Let's start with the secret girlfriend theory. Shortly after Michael left Angela's home, fans began analyzing his social media activity like detectives. Every follow, every comment, every emoji was treated as evidence. Some fans claimed Michael was talking to new women, possibly someone in the US, and that he had emotionally moved on long before the official breakup. But here's the reality. There has been no confirmed identity, no official relationship reveal, and no verified proof that Michael is in a serious new relationship. It's mostly internet speculation amplified by reaction channels and gossip blogs. Then came the biggest rumor of all: Michael secretly married again. This rumor spread fast because it fits a dramatic narrative. Fans love a secret wedding story, especially when it involves a controversial figure like Angela. But as of now, there is no verified evidence, no marriage records, no official statements, and no credible entertainment outlet confirming that Michael remarried. Most of these headlines are clickbait designed to generate views. But the rumor itself tells us something important about the fandom. People already see Michael as someone who has emotionally moved on, whether he actually has or not. Now, let's talk about the New Life in America storyline. Since arriving in the US, Michael has been portrayed by fans as someone rebuilding his identity. Some believe he's working, making new friends, possibly collaborating with influencers, and quietly creating a life separate from Angela. Others believe he's struggling, dealing with legal issues, and navigating immigration complexities while trying to stay out of public chaos. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. What matters for the story is perception. Michael is no longer just Angela's husband. He's becoming his own public figure in the franchise universe. And that shift is powerful. Now, let's analyze what could happen legally, because this is where the stakes get real. If the divorce and legal disputes continue, several outcomes are possible. One scenario: a standard divorce settlement, where both parties walk away with their own lives and minimal public fallout. Another scenario: a messy legal battle with accusations, evidence, and public filings that could damage reputations on both sides. And a third scenario: a public settlement combined with a reality TV comeback storyline, where parts of the conflict are monetized through future seasons or specials. Reality TV has a long history of turning real pain into content. And TLC knows that Michael and Angela's breakup is ratings gold. Now, what about immigration consequences? This is one of the biggest questions fans keep asking. Many viewers worry that leaving Angela could affect Michael's legal status in the U.S. But immigration law is complex. Being married to a U.S. citizen can provide a pathway to residency, but it doesn't always depend on staying in the relationship forever. Depending on his visa type, legal filings, and timelines, Michael could still have options to remain in the U.S. even after separation. But these details are private, and neither side has fully disclosed them publicly. That uncertainty fuels even more speculation. Now, let's talk about money. Money is always the silent villain in reality TV relationships. Angela reportedly spent significant money on the visa process, travel, and lifestyle expenses. Michael reportedly gave years of emotional,